I'm so happy today to have Harrison Kass here. Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Um, I was gonna ask you to start off. Do you have a favorite Harrison Ford movie?
Oh man, I love Harrison Ford. Um, I mean, you could go through the filmography. Of course, Star Wars, starting with Empire Strikes Back. Indiana Jones. I enjoy Temple of Doom in
Is that your
particular.
favorite one?
Probably it's darker. I enjoy
It's
the darker.
fun though, yeah.
It's fun. Yeah, it's dark. You miss the Nazis in that one. Like the Nazis are like the perfect enemy.
hmm
Um, but he has some deeper cuts too. I just watched a legal thriller. I forget the name of it.
Is it the one that the HBO show is based off Presumed Innocent? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know. Yeah, it was. He was covering up for his wife. His wife had committed murder. He was a
That's,
prosecutor.
I think that's probably the one. Everyone's talking about the Jake Gyllenhaal show that's
Yeah.
like remade, and that's like the movie's pretty good too. But
Okay.
I just was thinking about it because your name is like the same amount of characters as his name, even.
It's close, and it's not a coincidence. Yeah, in Jewish tradition, you take like the letter from the person in the family that died most
Oh, okay.
recently, uh, or the name. They took the H. They didn't want to name me Herman after my grandfather who had died. Harrison Ford was big at the time.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
There
how
you
we got
go.
there. Yeah.
Okay. That's so funny. Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious. First of all, I was gonna say, yeah, you're like the 10th candidate I've had on here. I think it's really cool that you are entering the Portland City Council race.
Hmm.
Um, I'm in District 3, and I think you'll kind of add like an interesting element to the mix. Um, and yeah, just tell me really quick, like why you got in and why you felt compelled to join.
Well, there were personal reasons, and then there were very practical, like political calculations. I think District Three, we think of it as the most liberal district. I was looking at the contours of the candidate field and wasn't really comfortable with the options. It was skewing really progressive. So I didn't see a moderate lane filled. Felt like I could fill that lane, and yeah, that was a huge part of it. I feel like this upcoming election is going to be a referendum on public safety,
Mm.
and I felt well positioned as a professional in the field to you know contribute to that and
Yeah.
hopefully legislate from that perspective next year.
Cool. Yeah. And yeah, and I have a bunch more questions, political stuff, but I wanted to get, I'm just so curious about this hockey stuff in your background. Tell people about like how you got into that, and was
Uh,
it semi-pro? Like what was the
yeah, I had a brief and uneventful semi-professional career.
okay.
Yeah, I played a, I had a non-linear, unorthodox hockey career, and came out of retirement and played a little semi-pro, and yeah, I was grinding, making a couple $100 a month, that sort of thing. It
Yeah.
wasn't glamorous, but it was fun. I'm glad I got to do it.
And what position? I don't even know the positions, but
I bounced around at times in my career. I grew up playing defense and finished playing defense. I'm a natural defenseman. I can move up to the forward, but I think the game and I'm more effective as a defenseman. And I think there was when I was coming up 20 years ago, there was bias against defensemen under 6 feet, under like 190 pounds. So I maybe would be viewed more as a natural defenseman now because you're seeing smaller defensemen be effective and are being promoted. But at the time, there was some pressure to move up to forward, but just because of my size, and yeah, I
was
should
it?
have. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I
Go.
should never have let anyone move me from defense. That's a regret. But
Okay.
yeah,
I was gonna say because I had this perfect question or segue. I was gonna say like, how would somebody like me fare? What position would I play?
I mean, a coach would probably look at you and say you're forward or a center.
Okay.
But yeah, the rules are the old textbook is being disregarded. You're seeing,
Okay.
I mean, to an extent, you're still seeing like at the NHL level, your average defenseman is going to be pretty big.
Yeah.
But if you had the skill, if you had the speed and the mobility, you could compensate and play D. But probably you're going to be like a center. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I know very little about it, but I've only been on the ice like skating like 3 or 4 times, so I would probably not do that.
yeah.
But yeah, tell me a little bit more about. I'm just curious how you see District 3, and are you kind of forming alliances? Have you talked to a lot of your fellow candidates and that kind of thing?
No, I haven't. Yeah, brief interactions with Daniel DeMello. We're both endorsed by Rene Gonzales, so yeah, I think there's some compatibility there. I wouldn't say it's a formal alliance, but outside of the district, again through the Rene Gonzales network, speaking with like Eli Arnold and I think Zimmerman's in there. We haven't spoken much, but Bob Simrel, Terrence Hayes. Yeah, I think there's a sense that we're allied, and maybe it's not formal, but
You have
there's
shared priorities and that kind of thing. Yeah.
that's my sense. Yeah, certainly coming at it with what we think of as a rational viewpoint.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Cool. All right, so I'm gonna get into some of these more specific questions. Or before I do that too, by the way, do you are like a Winterhawks fan? I was gonna ask you that.
yeah, I mean definitely enjoy the Winterhawks. We skate with a lot of them, or like with their alumni, and we skate at veterans when we can. And they have a junior program that some of my friends coach with. So yeah, a lot of integration with the
Nice,
Winterhawks program.
nice. I've actually never been to a game, and I've heard it's fun, but I've seen when I worked in the news here a lot. I'd see the teddy bear toss and all that
Teddy
stuff
Bear
they do,
Toss.
and yeah,
Yeah, you should go. Yeah,
I've heard it's a blast
it's a
too.
blast.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're talented. It's good atmosphere, and you know they're young and aspirational. So it's a good atmosphere.
cool. Okay, I was gonna ask you about because this stuff is topical and it's coming up. HB 4002 implementing kind of the law here in Multnomah County at Portland. Just what are your feelings about all that stuff and how this is being rolled out in the county? And I know it's obviously a county thing.
Yeah,
I just ask people about it because the relationship between the two is kind of strained,
it is
city and
strange.
county and stuff.
Yeah, I think the rollout, we had concerns from the city side about the way the process, the transparency,
Mhm.
and yeah, we were concerned that the county chair wasn't involving some of the other county commissioners, some of the commissioners who had really paid close attention to public safety issues, like Julie Brim Edwards and Sharon Myron,
Mhm.
were being excluded, which seems inherently undemocratic. Um, we Yeah, I think generally though, I support like the idea that drugs will be recriminalized. And I'm satisfied that we're not just directly funneling people into jail. I don't think like jail should be the automatic
Mhm.
punishment for drug use. I like that we're giving them the option.
Right. You had
Right.
the two
So
options. Yeah.
right. So in principle, deflection is wonderful. I think that's a step in the right direction. Yeah, procedurally, would like to see transparency. Happy to see Bob Day in that process. Happy to see it. I think it took some elbowing, but Nathan Vasquez
Hmm.
brought into the room. So there are, uh, you know, people with our interests or with aligned values in the room.
Yeah.
Uh, but obviously now, you've got an arbitrary deadline. You've got the preschool.
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
lawsuit and all that stuff.
yeah,
Or
and
threatening lawsuit. Yeah.
those concerns are valid. You know, I have questions about the security for the neighborhood too. Yeah, so
Yeah. And it sounds like they weren't, I don't know for sure, but they weren't looped in as much as, they probably should have
it
been.
doesn't
So,
sound that way.
yeah.
Yeah, and I understand now. We were really concerned a few weeks ago. It looked like deflection was going to be completely optional. Yeah, that was concerning.
Mm.
That sounded like Measure 110 with just like a police escort.
It's kind of a loophole through the new revision.
Yeah, like a very cyclical, like ineffective, like end effect similar to Measure 110 still being in place. So that
Yeah.
was concerning. As I understand now, they're moving towards compelling treatment, which is what the voters
Yeah.
wanted.
Seems
So
like, yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I was thinking about it this weekend talking to some people and, I totally agree with you. And it's just funny that people, even, I mean, the sheriff's office, there's people that are very outspokenly against
mhm,
what they call recriminalizing drugs. And then my whole thing is like, well, this is like, it went through the state legislature, like which comp is
it did.
almost all Democrats. And,
That's
this,
right.
this is what we decided as a state. And so it's just funny to hear opposition to it. But I think I don't know. I think there's good things about it, but yeah, it's being rushed. It seems.
Yeah. I mean, September 1st is arbitrary. I mean, there's obviously political pressure to begin the program. I want the program to start, but yeah, it needs to be done right. We can't just be dropping people off in acute distress outside of a
Hmm.
preschool.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it is for people who don't know. I guess I don't know. You probably do if you're listening this far, but it's right in the inner side of Sandy, I believe,
Sandy.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, Sandy
So,
at Ninth,
hmm,
something. Yeah.
so it's kind of a busy area, but um, yeah, and kind of along those lines, I always ask people like, how do you see the balance of police and PSR in Portland, and what would you change with each of them?
With each of them, I mean, police, we need more police. Yeah, we're at 800 something now. I think a city of this size probably deserves maybe 50% more. Yeah. I mean, we need more police, and culturally, we need to support the police. It's not helpful to recruitment efforts. It's not helpful to them doing the job they need to do if there's not trust and support amongst the community. And obviously, they need to earn that, and they need to be held accountable. But there is a culture that is very, especially in like District 3, that's anti-cop, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's deserved. And so, love to see that changed. PSR, yeah, I see PSR as like as a supplement to the police. It seems like they're in theory designed to address like low acuity police calls.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think PSR needs to maybe adjust and understand that they are like aligned with the police. Yeah, and my understanding with PSR is that there's very talented people, very motivated people, um, and that they have the capacity as professionals to do like a wonderful job and lighten the burden on our system. Um, but they're not necessarily been given the authority to do that, like
Mm-hmm.
inability to transport, for example.
Yeah, everyone brings that up, and that's my thing too. And everyone agrees on that. I was just thinking, like, I don't know how they implement that. Is that just a money thing of like,
I think,
and then
yeah, that's a good question. I think
yeah,
probably money and maybe maybe a code change,
code change, yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
But yeah, PSR has the capacity to do great work, and they're certainly motivated. And I have a lot of respect for uh, the concept of PSR
Mm-hmm.
and the people doing it. I do think that culturally there's a little bit of that resistance to integrate with police and integrate with the bureaucracy. And I think they do need to understand that they are going to have to work in concert as part of our police force,
Yeah.
and certainly as part of our bureaucracy. So yeah, maybe some cultural adjustments there.
So yeah, I totally agree with both of those things, and I agree with like most people who's come on here say the same thing, and I agree that like the whole point of PSR was to complement the police and alleviate where they can
Hmm.
a lot of those issues. And one of the things that one of my recent guests, Tiffany Penson, brought up was it was the transport thing, and everyone agrees that they need to be able to do that. But I'm like, that would be the perfect solution in my mind of people who have addiction or mental health issues, and they say, "Listen, do you want help right now?
Hmm.
We can take you there right now
Hmm.
if that's what you want." And that just seems like a great solution, but they can't do it right now.
Right. Uh, yeah. No, I agree with you. And uh, speaking of logistics and like the relationship with the PSR and police, I think a lot of those interactions would be aided by maybe having like a police presence. So
Hmm.
yeah, like I think of PSR as being very much integrated with the police, and yeah, culturally we need to finesse that a little bit.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that is actually something that overlap of like there are going to be situations where it could be dangerous,
that's what I'm getting at.
and so
Yeah,
sometimes there should be police and them working together.
I think so. Yeah, and it's not PSRs. They're very professional and experienced, and they know what they're doing. But there are
There's situations, yeah, that get out of control, and
right.
yeah. Um, okay, I was going to ask you this because I heard this. This is the first time I heard these arguments a couple days ago,
Hmm.
but I was at a panel, a Future Portland event, and some candidates were asked about police staffing numbers, and they said that the 800 we have is fine. We can just kind of rework those positions to be more effective.
Hmm.
And I had just never heard anything like that. I don't know if they saw like a Reddit comment or something and got it from there, but
Okay.
for what I know about police and working in the media with them and stuff, that just seems absurd and impossible. And
We
but I
we
was
have
curious what your take is on that.
we're not entertaining that as a solution. I've never heard anyone on the city side entertain that as a solution. Yeah, it's commonly understood that we do not have the appropriate numbers of police officers for a city of this size.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, maybe there could be some reallocation of uh, officers within police force that could alleviate some of our more acute problems.
Hmm.
But yeah, we are severely understaffed. So yeah,
Yeah, and it's kind of an aside too, but you've lived here how long?
I got here in 2014 for the first
Oh,
time.
okay, that's
Yeah,
quite a while. Yeah, so because I just was asking because I've been here, I don't know, it's 2006, and I've seen when we had way higher police
yeah,
staffing numbers, and you can
right.
see the difference at least.
I was gonna say I go days without. I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw someone get pulled over by a cop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not. It's a everyday part of life, just about everywhere else. It's there's like traffic enforcement.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's not really a thing here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Um, let's see here. I was going to ask quickly about. kind of the if you want to comment on like how District 3 is, I try to bring this up how it's unique in maybe it's just this overall size, the geographic size, but where I'm at is very different and I would say much less developed. I always tell people I don't have sidewalks. None of my
Yeah.
neighborhoods have sidewalks, and then other areas, District 3, it's great. Like they have great neighborhoods and great
Hmm.
stuff. But I'm just curious how you see that with like your voters, and I don't know.
That's
Could
great. Yeah, great question. I don't know. You would think that with three representatives coming from the district, you'd have people that understand the issues in each neighborhood,
mm,
or yeah, some representation from different areas. I do think there's maybe a concentration of candidates from Buckman, Kearns.
it does, yeah, it can maybe seem that way. Yeah,
It does.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I would hope that the issues maybe in the less developed portions of Southeast are mirrored in other districts. So you have, if whether you get that representation directly from a Southeast candidate or District 2 or District 1 candidate, hopefully with 12 candidates, yeah,
There's some, yeah,
there's hope.
measurable
Yeah.
people kind of overlooking that. Again, I bring it up because it's just, yeah, like sometimes I'll go to these events and I hear all these priorities and I'm like, that's not what like me and my neighbors are worried about out here. But
What are you guys worried about?
I mean, for me, it's all livability stuff.
Right.
And everyone I have on the show too, it's always homelessness, it's always public safety, all that stuff.
So that, yeah, that's, I think, one of the ironies of, District 3 is you have people who are insulated from these
Mhm,
problems,
mhm.
advocating in a way that suggests that these aren't as big of a problem as they are. But, most of the city is dealing with these things more directly, like homelessness or crime, gun violence. Yeah, like Kearns, Buckman, it's not as much of an issue. So I can see where you'd want to focus your campaign on like climate justice or something.
Right. Yeah.
Most Portlanders are more
Yeah.
worried about unsanctioned camping than climate justice right
Mhm.
now.
Yeah, that's totally, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. And it's, yeah, it's just interesting to me because I've talked to people directly about that. And I say, you know what I'm more cared about here in our city,
Hmm.
or what I care more about is cleaning up our environment locally here,
Right.
because that kind of aids in both of those goals. And maybe that's just because I see that stuff every day. But, you know, there's a lot of pollution from RVs and tent fires and
Absolutely.
waterways and all that stuff. And,
Absolutely. Yeah. Not to scapegoat the unsanctioned campers, but there are a lot of sanitation ramifications
mm,
from living that way. But yeah, like you said, like we do have general sanitation issues. So those are more immediate, like environmental concerns. And I see a lot of candidates, especially in District 3, paying lip service and even dedicating like a primary issue on their campaign to climate justice.
mhm.
Yeah, I'm all for climate action. I believe it is an existential threat to humanity. Fine, but Portland City Council has a very limited ability
Right.
to affect that in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's why, yeah, I've told a couple, I don't know, people when I go to these meetups, like that's the stuff we can actually
yeah,
do something about,
yeah.
as local elected people. And so, um, yeah, I was going to ask you about this is maybe seem like a weird shift, but I've been asking people to grant high school phone ban. PPS is doing this pilot to ban phones basically through the whole day. I believe you can pick it up when you leave, you drop it
Hmm.
off when you come in. I'm just curious your take on that. Is that a good idea, bad idea?
That's a great question. I don't have a. Let's see. I don't have a kid right now.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, so I might have a different opinion if I had a kid. I'm sure that would influence me, or if I were a teacher, in the trenches with the kids.
You also, and maybe this strikes you as incorrect, but you strike me as somebody who's not attached to their phone.
I wasn't until I started campaigning.
Okay.
Yeah, I would turn my phone
Kind
off.
of have to be, yeah.
Yeah, that's the worst part about campaigning. It's just, yeah, checking emails, calling people all the time,
Hmm.
which is, I enjoy those interactions, but yeah, just the physical attachment I don't enjoy. Um, but yeah, I think I was in high school right when the cell phone was like emerging as relevant technology. And
Yeah,
if you had your cell phone, man, yeah, you got in trouble. It was a problem. They
totally,
they would
totally.
confiscate it, call home. It was obviously it's not as big of an issue anymore. But I'm I can see where it would be very disruptive to everyday, like just efforts to educate kids.
Hmm.
I know it contributes to bullying, that sort of thing. So I could see where there would be a motive to confiscate phones during the workday or the school day.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because I forgot to write down here. I think you're the second person who's come on here. I think we might be the same exact age.
Are you
So
a 87?
86.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm 87.
But I mean, basically the same. Yeah. But
Yeah, it's
I
close
remember
enough.
that too. I had a flip phone like
Razor.
senior year.
Yeah,
It was just like a Samsung or something. I remember the Razors,
I miss the flip phone.
but it was I did like when you say that. I remember now it was very like if you ever got caught with that thing, it was just not
It
good,
was a problem.
And now kids
Yeah,
just have them all the time. It seems like.
right.
Um, yeah, no, I think it'll be interesting. I would love to. I've been saying for a long time, like I know, I think Washington D.C. or like certain areas have done it like district wide,
Okay.
and I would love to see that. I know it's just kind of an uphill battle because
Yeah,
it's an interesting thing,
I
but
think the thing with phones, yeah, I do see younger people like addicted.
yeah,
Yeah, I would be so like I'm not opposed to the idea of making them put it away for a little bit.
mm,
I would think that it detracts from their attention.
yeah,
I Yeah, I think generally younger people should be less involved with their phones.
yeah,
I even see that like with hockey, play with a lot of 18, 19-year olds, and they just they're not able to socialize in the same
mm,
way. Not that
totally,
I'm,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a different interaction.
It's actually, yeah, that was one of the things me and Tiffany were talking about was because I've talked to teachers that say like kids don't know how to talk to face to face anymore.
Yeah, I'm sure the pandemic didn't
And
help, but
yeah, and that's
yeah,
what I was bringing that up too. Of like, it seemed the phone thing seems like a good idea. The band seems like a good idea because there was like 2 or 3 years where they're just looking at their screens basically that whole
right.
time and lost all these social abilities. And
Yeah, I also think, yeah, phones and social media through adolescence. Like I'm very grateful now in respect that I didn't have social media in middle school and high
mm,
school. It's a lot of
mm,
pressure.
mhm.
Yeah, to like curate your online presence all day. And I mean, we're seeing the effects. Like Generation Z is like measurably less healthy, like from a mental perspective.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's not their fault. They were given, supercomputers at 10 years old and have been living on these things. And you're seeing anxiety and depression spike with that generation.
yeah,
And I think most
yeah.
people would attribute that to cell phone use. So
Yeah, it is really, yeah. If I was comparing myself to other people
yeah.
from age 12 on or
Hmm.
whatever, like that seems very anxious and unhealthy. But
Right.
I had a couple questions around the charter. I mean, it's our new city council now, but I always just ask people, are you happy with what we have? We're all kind of going through it. I'm still learning all the time about it.
Me too.
Is there anything like you would change about it?
Uh, I mean, I think for the first thing I would say is that I think it's being billed as this magic bullet that's going to cure the problems we have in Portland and is going to completely iron out, all the inefficiencies of local government. I wouldn't be so optimistic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've spoken to people who have been involved in local government here for much longer than I have, and they're thinking, we're probably taking a step back in efficiency for that might take 10 years to correct.
Mm,
That's might not be the consensus opinion, but I think that possibility exists that we are going to take a step back. There's going to be a learning curve. Um, yeah, generally, I would say I think 4 representatives on council was probably too few for the size of the city.
mhm.
Yeah, so I think expanding makes more sense, get more like representation out of East Portland. Um, I do think the staggering system, maybe I would feel differently if I were coming from a district that was going to have a 4-year term to start, but there's something odd about staggering. You have people winning a 4-year election and then you have half of them winning a 2-year election. And then you're going to put the pressure on all those candidates from the 2-year districts to,
Yeah.
basically start a campaign again in a year and
Hmm.
ask their constituents for money all over again.
And just for people that might not know, which district are the 2 year? Is it?
Well, District 3, I know because I'm in District 3.
Yeah.
The other one, I'm not positive.
There's one other one
There's
though.
one other.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, half the districts are 4-year terms and the other half are 2-year terms. That's a little wonky.
Okay.
But generally, yeah, I think it makes sense on paper to remove the bureaus from the
Yeah.
councils. Yeah, I
Like
like.
everyone agrees. Like that's a great idea. Obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
Councilors should legislate. Yeah, and you have people without like subject matter expertise running like a water bureau.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so conceptually, I'm not opposed. I'm concerned that the voters have been told this is going to be a magic bullet, and I'm concerned about uh, wrinkles in the transition process.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And like you mentioned a little before we started about just the cost. And I know Bob Weinstein's been on here talked at length about that. And it does
Hmm.
seem like it just keeps ballooning. This,
I'm guessing it will cost more than we were told it would cost.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, one of the things I was going to bring up with that I recently, and I'm doing this single transferable vote panel with Tim Scott from the county soon, and I'm going to ask him about this. But one of the criticisms I hear a lot about these multi-member districts, and I'm curious about your take on this, is that when we have this council and we start seeing issues, there's going to be a lot of finger pointing because there's
Hmm.
no like, it's not like the three reps are part of a specific neighborhood.
Hmm.
So I just feel like there's going to be a lot of accountability, kind of finger pointing between or
Yeah.
within each district if there are problems.
Yeah. And I think right now the races and obviously the nature of the campaign, people are thinking of council next year as like strictly compartmentalized between four districts. But yeah, those lines are very arbitrary.
Hmm.
And once the council is formed, you're just going to have 12 counselors, and they'll probably congregate based on ideological lines. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I was just thinking. Like, what would you say to people who, when we have the system, I don't know, 6 months from now, and somebody has a concern, would you advise them to just go to your counselor that aligns most with your priorities and that kind of stuff? And
yeah, I think that's not a bad idea.
or I guess maybe who's just most receptive
Yeah, probably
to that stuff.
whoever's willing to take your call.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, find someone who's aligned with you, someone who believes in your cause, and will advocate for you. Yeah,
yeah,
would be my advice.
that sounds smart. I'm just gonna throw this in too, of because I kind of flipped on this issue. I'm still thinking about it, but there's this idea, and I don't know, you probably know more than me if it's codified or not, but of like local offices for each district in your district, so people can meet there instead of city hall. And at first I was opposed to it because of the cost, but now I'm kind of like, well, there's, a lot of advantage to that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I believe initially that was the plan to include those district offices, and
Hmm.
now I believe it is not the plan,
Okay.
if I understand correctly. Yeah, I'm not opposed. I think I'm not opposed in principle. I'm not willing to like advocate that we need those
Right.
things.
Right.
It's going to be very expensive. I'm not like it's not. It would be a luxury. I don't think it's
Yeah. Yeah.
necessary. I think sure it'll inconvenience people and it'll be biased towards people that have the means to transport themselves downtown. But yeah, I just don't think we can afford to really like
Commit
invest.
to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It
just
does because at first and I still feel this way. I'm like, I think there's always the viable option of, hey, let's support a local business, just meet at a coffee shop or
mhm,
something, or a local fire bureau or something like
yeah,
that. I don't know. And that way you're kind of supporting the community anyway. But I don't
right.
know.
Yeah, no, I think that's adequate. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I'm sure uh, the new legislatures will be out and about in their districts, for political and practical purposes. So
yeah.
yeah, I don't think you'll need to go to city hall, but yeah, I don't think we can justify the expense necessarily.
This is an old question that I just thought of that I've only ever asked Bob Weinstein.
Okay.
I'm kind of putting you on the spot,
Uh,
but and I know it doesn't make any sense because this is what we just changed with our government. But if there was a bureau you could run, would you pick one necessarily?
I've really enjoyed my time with the fire bureau and those
Oh, okay,
guys. Yeah,
yeah.
I love the culture. I love the people. Uh, love the mission. That's probably the easiest answer. I'm trying to think
And
what
you're
other bureaus.
somewhat familiar with it. It sounds like, yeah,
Yeah, Commissioner Gonzales oversaw the fire
right,
bureau.
right,
Yeah, I did a ride along a few weeks ago with Chat, and yeah, just appreciated the work they were doing, and yeah, I think, but like my draw towards fire is mostly towards the culture.
yeah,
I just like those guys, and yeah, I do like the idea. Police has this element too. Just out in the field, getting the call, responding. It's an exciting day, and
yeah.
yeah.
Can you? Because I just learned what that was maybe a week ago. The chat with the fire bureau. Can you tell people what that is?
Chat is a Yeah, it's a supplement to the medical system. They respond to low acuity medical calls. So I believe it's like grade one. So yeah,
Yeah,
pretty simple stuff.
welfare checks and that
Yeah,
type of thing. Or
yeah, like a sprained ankle, no blood, that sort of thing. But a lot of that is dedicated to overdose right now.
right,
Yeah,
right.
so that system is um, slogged down with overdose responses. But again, they've been super valuable in alleviating some of that stress on like AMR and our ambulance system, which I'm
Hmm.
sure is overtaxed. So yeah, Chat's been a valuable program, and the city's just agreed to fund it. It was we were getting like year to year funding from Care Oregon, and now yeah, Care Oregon's going to continue to contribute, and the city's getting involved. So yeah, the pilot's been very successful.
And you're saying they just got funded for a while now, or like,
Yeah, and in the next year's budget, yeah, they were doing year to year patch funding.
okay,
Yeah, but
now they have like a long term
I, you know,
something or other
I don't
too.
know how long term.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think the results are in. Like the pilots, I think we're thinking of it as a success. I
Yeah.
think of it as a success. We want to continue to see it, and yeah, they just expanded out to the east side, which is obviously helpful. That community needs low acuity
Yeah.
medical response. So yeah, chat has been great.
And can you speak to, because I know, and maybe this is an older like take, but I know their numbers were down for a while, right? Or
Numbers as far as like
staffing,
recruitment. Yeah,
staffing for Fire
they've
Bureau. Yeah.
they yeah, they were very dependent on overtime for a long time. So there's budgetary problems related to the reliance on overtime, which is expensive. And
Right. Yeah.
they're also looking at like potential retirement cliffs,
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, just
Similar to the police, I know they have.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they were having some problems with staffing. And obviously when you're forcing people into overtime situations, that can reduce morale. So um, yeah, there's a theme. There's a theme in
Right.
Portland.
Right.
Like the first responders haven't really been properly supported. Police, fire. We definitely need to have, I think, a little bit more like institutional respect for what they're doing,
Mhm.
and make their jobs easier.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that. I understand where the police hate comes from, but I don't understand the fire stuff, and I don't know.
Fire. Yeah, the fire. Yeah, I
I
mean,
think
they're
it's just
supposed
like
to
a
be
thankless job. I guess I don't
sometimes.
know.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be. I mean that. Yeah, they're the guys like rescuing kittens.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like it's a very sympathetic position, and yeah, like immense value to the community.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Um, is there anything? Do you want to talk more about your Northwest story? I always ask people like, how'd you move here? How'd you find Portland? And
man, moved here. I always had I grew up on the East Coast, had a very strong association with Oregon because my father, during his like hippie phase in the 70s, lived in Eugene and
okay,
always
sure.
talked about Oregon. So I had it in my mind as this like this mecca. But
You had never been there. You just heard about it, like
I'd
some
never been
kind
there.
of Wizard of Oz city or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
exactly. Oregon. Um, but yeah, in my 20s, I was like, transient, bouncing around, lived in multiple states. And yeah, a friend offered a job. So I came up here. I'd never seen Oregon. Took a $10 an hour job. Not the sort of thing you would usually like move into a different time zone to take.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I was just kind of flailing around and looking for something,
Just kind
and
of on a whim. You just,
it was
yeah.
on a whim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved here in a Volkswagen. Didn't really have a place to stay when I arrived, which was stressful. Did it like 2 weeks of couch surfing, and then ended up in one of those Craigslist situations,
Like a room
yeah, rent
share
it.
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just rent. So I was kind of, yeah, just found my way out here, slumming it a little bit. And it just became home. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you just were now saying that, I just remembered that somebody, I can't remember if it was Rose City Reform or somebody described you that way of like you had this kind of homeless period.
Yeah. Yeah, my family had yeah, like housing instability.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, nothing like you see on the streets of Portland now, but that meant a lot of couch surfing, motels, hotels, sleeping in an office where on floors where we shouldn't have been sleeping.
Mm.
And yeah, I've respect for that time period. I think there are lessons learned. I think a lot of it was, our own fault. I think, yeah, some financial uh, ineptitude, myself included. So fortunately, I was able to extricate myself from that situation by being a little bit more disciplined. And yeah, I think it was also important that, like, even though we were very poor for an extended period, uh, but some of the other factors that lead to like really acute chronic homelessness, we did not have. So like drug abuse
Mm.
or mental health problems, we were fortunate not to have any of those. I think we were vulnerable to the point where if you introduce another element, we would have maybe really had a problem. But
Right. Right.
uh, yeah, we were able to, weather the storm, and stabilized. And for me, that stabilization was pretty gradual. And, I was, yeah, for most of my 20s, I was kind of in that, millennial poor uh, ramen dinner sort of mode, which is,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't, it's not a unique story or anything. but yeah, I can definitely empathize with people with financial problems.
Yeah. No,
Hmm.
yeah, that's an interesting, yeah, background. I can't really say that I had the same exact thing, but I always tell people like, because for whatever reason, maybe it's like this where I film and everything, people think I'm like super wealthy, but I grew up in a mobile home on like on
Did you?
welfare with a single mom and stuff, so I can kind of relate, but
Well,
um,
yeah. Not to cut you off. Yeah, I
no, go
could.
ahead, yeah.
Well, I hear the weird part is I didn't grow up in poverty at all. I grew up very comfortably and experienced some pretty sharp downward mobility.
Yeah.
We moved in the wrong direction.
Right, right. And
Um,
sometimes that's, I don't know, that just has a huge toll, obviously.
yeah, and I think moving in the other, or even growing up, like kind of working class, you get some calluses, you get some resiliency. Like I didn't. I was kind of like a little punk.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no. When you move that way, you get used to certain things. Caviar, so to speak, and yeah, it's pretty disorienting when you suddenly don't have that kind of
Yeah,
surroundings.
yeah.
So, yeah, I don't recommend downward mobility.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
you're saying mobile home in Alabama? Did you say?
No, I mean, this
Where
was just in Southern Oregon,
Southern Oregon?
but yeah, it was just, yeah, it was interesting too because you can tell a lot about me. But we had a mobile home, and behind it was another mobile home where my uncle who had schizophrenia lived,
Okay.
and he's no longer alive now. But so there's a lot in my background that kind of adds to my positions in Portland now, and like
Okay.
my understanding of that stuff. And
Did you read Hidden Valley Road?
no, I don't know what
No.
that is.
Um, family with 12, I think it was 12 sons. Six of them had schizophrenia. So
Oh,
yeah,
really?
it walks through that
Wow.
story pretty, you know, um,
Yeah.
it gives you some perspective to the behaviors we see on the streets and how,
Hmm.
tragic that can be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's I don't know, it adds to my just awareness of because there's so much of this like psychosis or like drug induced psychosis on our streets,
Hmm.
and I know that schizophrenia is a big part of that. And but yeah, I was going to ask you too, like what when you moved here in 2014, you said
Hmm.
what was your kind of thought at the time of Portland? Was it you're just like, man, this is awesome, and
I, yeah, I loved it. I had been to some of the other sister cities, on the liberal circuit from Denver to Austin.
mhm.
I'd spent time in Southern California, Northern California. I'd been all over. I mean, that's the thing. I've been all over Boston, New York, Chicago, Florida. I've lived in like 10 states or something. Got to Portland, loved it. It did then and has since stood out as like the pinnacle for me. It's where I felt comfortable. Uh, and so like that's why I talked my brother and his new wife into moving out here. Father's out here. Like it became home like very intentionally. Kind of did a survey, said Portland's the spot. So yeah, it's not a coincidence that we're here, all set up now.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
cool. Okay, before I get into these goofy questions, I do ask people sometimes. First of all, do you have a mayoral pick for this election that you were comfortable sharing?
I do. Yeah, my mayoral pick is Rene Gonzales.
Okay.
Hmm.
That's probably who I'm going to go with as well. But I
Okay.
am going to do like an endorsements episode, hopefully. Do you have a favorite Portland mayor of all time?
No, I'm not. I'm not well versed enough.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I
That's
couldn't.
okay.
I could tell you about. I know Ted Wheeler and I know Sam Adams and
Mm,
I know some other names, but yeah, I couldn't give you like an audit of like 20th
it's all good.
century.
It's all
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
but
Okay. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any of my questions here. Um, okay. Yeah. Let's say you are parking somewhere. Do you normally pull in or do you back in? Like you parked out here? Do you?
I like to back in. Yeah, if I'm not impeding anyone else or like holding up traffic, I would prefer to back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little.
Does it have a good feeling to it?
Yeah, I like to be
Sometimes.
able to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, this is kind of, I've asked this one a few times. If you were on like a deserted island, I know this question might not make sense necessarily,
I'll
but if
try.
you had one condiment,
Oh,
like, do you have a number one condiment? For me, it's mustard. I'll tell you
mustard's your
that.
go. Yeah, I was joking recently. Growing up in Connecticut, you just like you don't put hot sauce on anything. You don't put like,
Is that right?
I mean, like, yeah, I just kind of eat things. So people were noticing
They're
that about.
anti hot sauce.
I'm not anti hot
I'm
sauce.
not even saying they are in
Oh,
Connecticut. Or,
yeah, it's just not like it's not on the table when you go to eat. Yeah, I'd kind of just eat what's put in front of me. That people notice that about me. Just this weekend, we were talking about that. So, number one condiment. Um, no, I don't. I really don't.
Okay,
Yeah, sorry, man.
that's okay. Yeah, but it sounds like you're not a picky eater, which is a good quality for some
I'm
people.
not. I grew up picky.
Okay,
I grew up very picky.
yeah.
And then like made a concerted effort to not be picky, and now I have a pretty expansive diet. Well, I'm a pescatarian. That's
Okay, yeah.
my wife works in has an agricultural degree and kind of talked me out of eating meat. So
Okay,
yeah, but otherwise not picky. Yeah, enjoy traveling and eating abroad, that sort of thing. So
nice.
yeah.
Which piece of fruit do you think you could throw the farthest if you just chucked it across a football field?
Oh well, you need some weight behind it, uh, and you need it to fit in your hand. So I'm thinking, yeah, things on that apple spectrum. Maybe a kiwi has some density and it fits well in your hand. Then you need aerodynamics. So maybe the kiwi, the fuzz would disrupt the aerodynamic flow. So probably something with some sheen, like, yeah, probably like a waxed apple, something along
A
those
whack.
lines.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've never
something
heard
that
the
can,
wax element. I like that.
yeah. So I think, yeah.
What is that? I don't even know. Is that a normal thing they do?
Well,
When do they
so
wax an
like
apple?
you get those like apples at the Safeway and they have the pesticide sheen on them,
Right, right. Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that could,
This
uh,
is something maybe a question for your wife, but I was just reading yesterday that because I've been eating a lot of pears this summer, but I was just reading that there's this new study that's like doing the washing does not get rid of all the pesticides.
I mean,
And so
yeah,
they're saying you actually have to peel the whole top layer off to get that stuff out. And I'm like, are we all just kind of screwed here? Like,
I think
what's
it's
going on?
possible.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. Yeah. Now the new thing's microplastics.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not
Yeah.
screening for microplastics. I think
Yeah.
the damage is done. And
Yeah. We're all eating it. And,
sure. Yeah.
um, do you like crunchy or smooth peanut butter? Maybe you don't like peanut butter.
Love peanut butter. Yeah, it's like a foundation of my diet. And if I have the option, I'll go crunchy,
Okay.
but never discriminate against
You're
smooth.
agnostic. Yeah.
Agnostic. Yeah. But
PB agnostic.
I
What
put
about
peanut butter in my cereal. Yeah, I
what?
do. Yeah.
What?
Put it in the cereal for some density.
How does that even work? Does it mix in at all, or do you just
You gotta like smush it around. Yeah, you make it work. It's great though.
what
I recommend it.
what kind of cereal are we talking? We're in untreaded territory
Yeah, it's
here.
different. Yeah, I would usually like a Cheerios variant.
Oh, that would work. Yeah, I could
Yeah,
see that working.
it works. Yeah, to try it out. Cheerios, raisins, walnuts, and peanut butter.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what about there's no way that you're putting the oil kind. Are you putting the oil kind in there?
Sometimes, yeah, like the Adams. Are you familiar with that? Like
Yeah,
Adams
I've got
brand? Yeah,
Adams. Yeah,
we'll do it. Yeah, you try to
but I guess
limit,
if you're pre-stirring, it doesn't
try
really.
to pre-stir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but those brands are usually higher quality. So
Okay.
yeah, try to go high
That's
quality.
like I've never heard of anyone doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a now you've sent me on do you have a top cereal? Is that your favorite Cheerios?
No, I mean, favorite cereal. I mean, I grew up eating, cereals you're not supposed to eat.
Right.
Use
Cinnamon
Cinnamon
Toast
Toast
Crunch.
Crunch. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, I still,
I was never allowed to eat the cookie one. I can't
oh
remember what that's
God,
called,
the
but
cookie dough. I
or
mean,
the
with the dog mascot.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
can't
mean,
remember what it's called. Cookie Crisp. Yeah.
Cookie Crisp. Yeah, I mean, those things have like,
My mom was just like, "You're not eating
that
cookies."
was smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 40 grams of sugar serving something. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just not responsible. But yeah, now I'll trend towards, yeah, like a pretty generic, like Whole Food sort of,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Um, do you have a favorite type of French fry? Do you like regular cut, crinkle cut, waffle fries?
Um,
Shoestring? Is that the one?
I like yeah, traditional cut. I know my father's from Brooklyn. He's a huge Nathan's fan.
Oh yeah,
If
yeah.
you're familiar with those cut, I've also been trending towards sweet potato fries.
Okay, I like
Yeah,
those too. Yeah.
yeah, get those like with a banh mi or something.
Mm.
Yeah, it's awesome.
What's the Nathan's kind specifically? Like JoJo's kind of or something?
I think that's a crinkle cut technically. I think
Okay.
Nathan's is a crinkle cut. Yeah, it's a little denser.
The kind that come in like the plaid little red
Yeah,
cup thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, he grew up eating those at like the original Nathan's in Brooklyn or Coney Island or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's that's his big thing.
And what did you just say? I just totally forgot. What was your
Uh, what did I say? Sweet potatoes?
sweet? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the other guy. Okay. Yeah, I was just on it. I was starting to think about. Are you familiar with the recent controversy, the Nathan's hot dog eating stuff with Joey Chestnut and all that? And
No, I'm not. What's going on?
they like ejected him from the contest because
Okay.
he has a partnership with Impossible Meat or something like that, and they have fake hot dogs. So there was like a
Oh,
conflict of
Got it.
competing hot dog companies, and they kicked him out. But now Netflix is doing a competition with him and the Japanese guy. I can't remember his name.
I've seen that guy.
And they're gonna do it on Netflix. So it's like I don't know. It's this
Y-
whole
Okay. Yeah, so they're the meat lobbyists are cracking down, huh? Yeah,
yeah. I just love talking about it because it's like I love the how competitive it is, but they're just eating like 70 hot
it's
dogs
great.
and
Yeah, I still the
like
physics don't make sense to me.
right.
Yeah.
Um, let's say you're getting ice cream at Salt and Straw or somewhere. Do you go waffle cone, regular cone, cup,
Sugar cone.
sugar cone? Okay,
Yeah, sugar cone.
that's the
It's
standard
like
one.
your drive-through ice cream cone. Yeah, probably uh
Yeah,
half plastic,
the class.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
so you're getting your microplastics.
yeah, exactly.
Um, and what flavor are you putting in there?
At Salt and Straw, my default is the chocolate brownie.
Okay,
Yeah, usually just in general, chocolate base with some sort of yeah cake chunk or something along those lines.
something.
Cake brownie, yeah, something to
Yeah.
chew on a little bit.
Um, I was asking people this. May I don't know. You might not be prepared to answer this, but when the ice cream truck came around when you were a kid, was there a go to
I mean,
face or shape that you would get from those things?
I was big on the ice cream sandwiches, if you
Okay.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a go-to
Um, do you keep your butter in the fridge or you keep it out?
in the fridge.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that your choice, the wife's choice?
yeah. She food decisions at the house run through her.
Okay.
Yeah, she's like
The
passionate about food.
food bureau.
Yeah,
Do you like string cheese?
I do like string cheese. Yeah, ate it as a kid and recently rediscovered it. So I'm back eating. I think Tillamook sells mozzarella string cheese. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's good
I
stuff.
love Tillamook too. Do you peel it? That's my big question.
I do. Yeah, as opposed to just like eating it by it.
Right.
No, I don't. That's serial killer behavior. Yeah, no,
Okay.
no.
I do it. That's why I was asked, but I'm seriously like
You peel
I
it.
probably had one person. No, I just eat it.
You
Yeah.
eat it. Yeah, no, no.
And
I
that's
don't
what
do it.
everyone like, it's in the name, you gotta peel it and all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, just like yeah, cheese. Too much cheese at once it changes the. It's like too sharp sometimes.
That's a
So
good point. That's a good
yeah,
point.
I peel the string cheese.
Um, if you were forced to run a gigantic brand or company, is there one you'd want to run?
Um,
We could be
are
a
we? Are we?
hockey team, maybe.
It could. Are we? Yeah. So we're not talking like consumer packaged good. We're talking about just any
Anything,
company.
yeah.
I would want to get closer to aviation or space travel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would want to leverage that position into flying more and potentially visiting space. Yeah,
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
I think that would be a big one for me. Um, yeah, that's probably where I'd go.
Okay. Um, I was asked people this, did you have a good meal recently or just a local business you want to shout out? Is there something?
Definitely. Yeah, they know me pretty well at Short Round. It was Short Round. I think they're transitioning to Crying Tigers. It's on the corner of Hawthorne and Cesar Chavez.
Mhm.
And yeah, if you go get the Boda's favorite, that's probably my like default dish in Portland.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
What's the
fantastic.
Boda's favorite?
It's a base of white rice, and it comes with 2 fried eggs, shrimp, and then meat of your choice. I go with tofu. I think there's like a lemongrass sauce, some
Mm,
sort of
mm.
sauce, and yeah, it's fantastic.
Sounds great. Yeah. Shout
Yeah,
out to them. Okay. Where can people, if people like what you're saying, where can they go to donate? And I always tell people, I'll send you a donation because I know how important the match thing
it
is,
is.
and I think it's a cool program. But yeah, where can people donate and do all that stuff?
Kass4pdx.com, and that's KASS. Yeah, yeah, we're hustling. We've had a strong donor response so far. We're like a week in. We're over 100 donations, so the pace is on pace to
That's
meet the match.
that's great. Yeah, so
It's
far.
great. Yeah, we're still work cut out for us, and yeah, I appreciate you advocating and bring me on the show. Yeah,
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 yeah. I would say if any candidate comes on the show, I'll give them a donation just for
yeah,
dealing with my BS.
yeah.
But
No, it's fun, man.
yeah, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up here?
No, yeah, I think I just want to say, yeah, use the platform to say that I'm non-ideological, and I think we need very rational decision making that's divorced from strict ideology. Yeah, so yeah, looking forward to being that voice in Southeast.
Nice. And I had a bad joke on here to follow the puck. What's this expression? Is that what it is? Follow the puck in hockey?
Uh, I've never heard that. I've never heard that. Just follow the puck.
Something about the puck where it's like, yeah, keep your eye on the puck or something. I don't know.
Maybe pass ahead of where the player's going to be. Something along those.
Something, I don't know.
Okay.
That was my complaint. I was gonna kind of vent to you of like, because I did watch a little bit of the Stanley Cup this year, but it is so hard to see that puck,
Well,
even in HD.
in the 90s, they experimented with a laser pointer tracker for the puck.
It was like red or something
Yeah, it was red. I think they brought it back as a prototype, but yeah. So you had, purists don't like the laser, but
because it's
maybe
not traditional. Yeah.
yeah. If you watch a little bit, if you get through that learning curve, you'll kind of anticipate where the puck's going, and yeah, it becomes fun. But I can appreciate that it's small. Yeah.
That's all good. All right. Well, thanks so much, man, for coming today.
Thanks
And
for having me.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.